Hello and welcome to another edition of Ecosphere. I am Mary Kanu. The rise in the cost of petroleum products in recent times has revealed the need to adopt renewable sources of energy which are not only sustainable but could slow down the effects of climate change. Now recently, about 100 million litres of adulterated petrol was imported into the country containing high methanol quantities above Nigeria's specifications. Many unsuspecting buyers of the product had their vehicles damaged or generating sets destroyed due to the adulterated content. Now, as the government took up steps to mop up the adulterated product, the development resulted in long queues at fuel stations across major cities across the country. But this development puts on the spotlight the hazardous effect of the adulterated petrol to the environment, with renewed calls for world leaders to move away from its dependence on fossil fuels. The current situation in Nigeria may be a pointer for an urgent need to move towards an alternative source of energy. Now, just as Nigeria is working towards reducing carbon emissions by 20% and reaching net zero target by 2060, environmentalist Yusuf Kalani gives an insight on the impact of adulterated petrol and pollution to the environment.
Pollution itself is the introduction of harmful materials into the environment, and these harmful materials could be natural and at the same time it could be man-made. That means as a result of human activities. Natural, like a volcanic ash, you have tsunamis, you have fog and other things which also pollute them. These are natural causes. The man-made causes, as a result of the trash that we dispose, not well organized, and humans pollute the environment, the three different areas in the environment: the sea, the land, and the air. And so pollution generally has given rise to a change in the climate, and a change in the climate has also given rise to what we refer to as global warming. So this pollution, they are quite harmful to humans, they are harmful to animals, they are harmful to all living things, including plants. Now, we have a situation now where there's fuel scarcity, and then people struggle to get fuel, and along the line, we've seen cases where in this scrambling to get fuel, accidents occur, filling station got burnt, a tanker is even attacked, got burnt, and at the end of the day, it's a very strong carbon emission that we get to see there when such a thing happens. That's one. Secondly, which is a bit alarming, it's that the vehicles we have on our streets are not well regulated in the first place. When the issue of climate change came about, in advanced countries where they took the issue of climate change so seriously, in automobiles, they introduced the catalytic converter, which is a fitting to the exhaust pipes of vehicles. The combustion that happens in the engine, when the engine is working, it's a lot of chemical reaction, physics, everything. The substance that should come from the exhaust pipes ordinarily is poisonous, but the catalytic converter within the exhaust pipe converts it from poisonous to non-poisonous. So the fumes that comes out of the exhaust pipes is not poisonous when you have that catalytic converter. But quite unfortunately here, we are not enforcing that catalytic converters should be in vehicles. So when this catalytic converter gets damaged or they get spoiled, we are supposed to change them, but rather we cut them off. So there's no catalytic converter. So the poisonous gas comes straight into the air, which is poisonous. So we have that already. And we have different articulated vehicles that are also not regulated. Vehicles using diesel, vehicles using even petrol with uncontrolled exhaust fumes. Cars that are not well maintained, that do not go for servicing, damaged tires that melt on the way. And when tires burn, is another major carbon emission to the atmosphere, which is also dangerous. So our automobile industry, transport, moving is not regulated in any way. So we emit different carbon, different carbon from different places, and we have all of them in the atmosphere. And all these things are dangerous to human health, like I said. So these vehicles, the gases that comes out is poisonous, and we have different forms of transportation activities. We have our private cars that we use, we have the commercial activities. Along those for commercial activities, we have different kinds. We have the big coastal buses, we have the luxurious buses, we have the downfall drivers that are not regulated, we have cabs, the boats, and Uber is growing day by day. You can imagine the volume of the vehicular activities we have on the road. In a state like Lagos, which is a cosmopolitan city, where the business is more of an on-the-go business, where people even eat on the road. People, even while eating, they still drop all sorts, on the road. So these things affect us, and they are very, very dangerous to human. Even the plants that are there for us, they take up our carbon dioxide, and they give us the oxygen we take in. You understand? So when we pollute the air, it affects them. So if they are not there to take that carbon dioxide that we emit, then who will take them? So they become poisonous within the system. And at the end of the day, they still go out there to, deplete the ozone layer. Another major challenge is to pollution. We have serious gas flaring activities going on. The factories are still polluting, the refineries, they emit a lot of carbon, which they just pass out there. So that depletes the ozone layer, that affects us as human beings. Then the automobile industry, unfortunately, they played a role. We had conferences in the past where we tried to push the Lagos House of Assembly to legislate a law that will regulate emission from vehicles, from automobiles, and it's not done. In fact, some of even the fuel that are being sold in some of the filling stations now are adulterated fuel. So what it means is they will even emit more poisonous gases, and they are going to injure more people. They are going to destroy the environment the more. Now, these are information that are there that we know, and I think what we should do is to find a way to reduce the effects of this thing, to try and put some form of control.
As Nigeria struggles with the effects of adulterated fuel to vehicles, generating sets and the environment, the United Nations has warned the world to get ready to face the consequences of their harmful actions to the environment. Now, when we return, we'll be speaking to an environmentalist on the UN's reports. Do stay with us. Welcome back. The United Nations recently released a report showing that there is a dangerously fast spike in atmospheric methane. With the noticeable change in the weather and complaints of heat waves, the report shows that even as 2021 was the world's 5th hottest year on record, a new level of high planet warming carbon dioxide and methane are set to hit the atmosphere. To give a breakdown of the causes and effects of the high level of methane in the atmosphere is Taiwo Adewale, environmentalist and managing director, Waste Exchange. Thank you for joining me on the program. Now, the report by the United Nations shows that there is an increase in atmospheric methane. Can you talk to us about the effect of methane to the environment? How dangerous is it to humans?
Thank you very much. Methane, as you all know, is 25 times even more dangerous than the CO2 everybody is talking when it comes to the issue of climate change. When we are talking about climate change, all our attention is always on CO2, but people forget about the methane gas, which is the CH4. It's even 25 times more dangerous than CO2. And this methane has so many sources, most especially from waste management, from agricultural production, from even oil exploration and so on. But the most common, in most cases, is always from waste and from agriculture, especially from a rice paddy. We all know what climate change is causing. So it's not only CO2, methane is part of it. That's why now we have the sunlight, we have excess sunlight. Anytime it's going to rainfall, you have excess of rainfall. And when there's droughts, there's excess, everything is coming in excess. This is due to activities of the CO2, CO2, then we also talk of methane. So methane is adding a lot. Like I told you, if CO2 is doing 1%, what methane is doing 25 times of that. So that's why you are seeing things changing rapidly. Whenever it's going to rain now, the rain might be heavy Everybody can feel the impact of what methane is doing now. Nowadays, we have excess rainfall. Now we have excess sunshine. The heat is getting too much. Everybody is complaining. This is the impact of methane, not only CO2, because everybody will say, oh, scientists are saying CO2, scientists are talking about climate change. But now everybody can feel it. Even a common man on the road can feel it. They can feel the heat. Anytime rainfall, they can feel the excess rainfall. They can see the excess flooding and the droughts, desertification, everything is becoming so rapidly now because of the effects of methane in our environment. So when people talk about climate change, it's not only about CO2. We also look at methane, and like I said, methane is 25 times. So that's why everything is becoming so rapid now. In time of summer, the heat radiation is getting too much. Drought is setting everywhere and there. Then the same thing with flood. Anytime it rains, excess rainfall. So the methane has come to stay, and this is due mainly to human activities, most especially from agricultural production, from a waste management, even from our oil exploitation and so on. So we can see and we can feel the effects already. Even not only the scientists, the common man on the road can feel it also.
Well, talking about the effects of human activities, we know the world is affected by the effects of climate change. Although Africa accounts for just about 4% of emissions, they bear the brunt of the emissions. Now, when it comes to Nigeria, agriculture accounts for, say, 23% of the country's gross domestic product, and already about 40% of the population is already food insecure due to insecurity, as well as the effects of climate change. Now, please talk to us about how worse things will get, especially with the rise in atmospheric methane.
Of course, like I said, everything is becoming excess. When you have a drought, yes, the drought is coming in essence. When you have rainfall, is leading to flooding. So there's no way agricultural production can survive when you have excess rainfall or when you have droughts. And even when people talk about the issue of a cattle area, the issue of a fight, this is due to some of these activities. In the northern parts where the animals are supposed to feed, they don't have access to this feeding again. That's why they're coming towards south. Towards the south, they be able to get a greener area. But even in the south, whenever I change, we have flooding. Most of these things are washed away. So one way or the other, agricultural production is going to be affected, and it has come to that already. And like I said, if you go back to the issue of the cattle rearing, a lot of farmers stopped going to farm now because of the cattle, people need to feed their cattle, they might overrun their farm and so on. So people are running away from farm. And even where the cattle rearing is not taking place, we have excess heat. Now you can't plant anything, it can't grow very well. And even the little place where you can plant, flood. When there's excess rainfall, everything is washed away. So we need to start thinking of our activities, what are we doing that is affecting the environment. We need to start going back to retrace our steps. We need to see what we can do to mitigate this effect. And I'll give a very good example in China, where about a rice paddy, planting of rice and so on, cultivation of rice, give about 20% of methane gas. What they did was to think inward. The scientists need to come together and look for a solution. And the solution was start draining the water, because this methane are produced by microbes. So they need to start seeing way of reducing the water from the conservation, and they're able to save about 25 million tons of methane. So we need to go back to, the farmers need to go back, the people need to go back, and also the scientists, we all need to sit together and start looking inward. What can we do to reduce these human activities? What can we do to reduce this methane activity? But like I told you, so in fact, methane is 25 times more dangerous than what we think. And that's why we are seeing it compared to the food security is being affected by climate change activities. And this is not, the scientists are just formulating. Everybody can see it, everybody can feel it, one way or the other, whether you're in the north or in the south. Everybody is being affected now. So the best way is we need to start going back. We need to start looking inward. What can we do to reduce the human activities? Because all these are caused by human activity, like I told you. We want to produce more oil. You are exploiting more. We need to generate more waste. And you are generating more waste. You are building more dump sites. So from the dump sites, we generate a lot of methane gas. And sometimes that's why you see the dump site go on fire. Not that they set it on fire, it's because of the methane gas coming from the waste. The same thing into agricultural waste and so on. So we need to start looking inward. We need to start looking away. If not, between now and maybe before the end of the year, there's going to be serious food scarcity if the heat waves and our activities continue this way.
Still talking about methane, the United Nations once said the world is at code red, and its recent reports, the UN also said tackling methane is probably the best opportunity humans have to buy some time to solve a much bigger challenge of reducing the world's carbon emission just before the world implodes. Now, how would you react to this?
Yes, like I said, if you go to the developed country, in most cases, what they do is most of these gases, like I said, there are gases, methane gas. There's something they call carbon capture. There's a way this methane can be captured and be reused or injected back. For instance, a very good example has to do with some of these landfills, dump sites. That's why I see in the advanced country, they do what they call waste to energy. Some of these methane gas can be trapped, convert to a cleaner energy, used for power generation and other stuff. But are we really ready to take that advantage? And as I'm talking to you, in Nigeria today, we have so many dump sites, so many landfills. In fact, Nigeria generates about 100,000 tons of waste every single day. Where did it end up in the landfill? And we are talking about power problem. Why can't we take advantage of that? This is the opportunity, this is the advantage. And there's so many there's so many funding out there that can support this type of initiative that the methane gas we are just wasting, flaring from the dump site, from our agricultural activities. What is the opportunity we have to capture them and put them into good use? But Nigeria are not taking advantage of that. And like the UN said, this is an opportunity, but we are not ready to take that opportunity because government has the power, they have all the resources, all the responsibility, but they are not ready to take that. And even the private sector that's supposed to come in, the enabling environment is not there for them to take advantage of that.
All right, so the issues have been pinpointed. Let's now talk solutions. At last year's COP26, President Buhari pledged that Nigeria will cut carbon emissions to net zero by 2060. Also recently, to mitigate climate change and its effect, the country has promised to slash black carbon and methane to reduce short-lived climate polluters. Now, with all the promises made and little or no actions taken, do you see us achieving any of these promises or goals?
Yeah, the problem in Nigeria is that we have so many policy, we have fantastic policy, we have a lot of treaties that we sign. Every year, Nigerian government go there to make promises. But the greatest problem has to do with implementation. How do they want to implement that? We have fantastic law, we have fantastic policy. Implementation has always been our problem in Nigeria. And because everybody is saying we want to achieve zero waste, we want to achieve zero net, everybody in Nigeria too wants to come in. Are we looking at our activities? I'll give a very good example. For the past 3 days now, there have been a complaint with the national grid has broken down. And what did everybody do? Everybody now, every household you go to Nigeria today, they operate on generator. If you don't have 2 or 3 generators, you have one, at least every household in Nigeria. And every time this generator burn, they are releasing something to the environment. So what is government trying to do to cut this? What is government trying to do to promote renewable energy and so on? So, but it's going to be a long way. And Nigeria happens to be a country that depends so much on oil. So, the Nigerian government say we want to stop exploring oil, and we know what is happening to our revenue. But when it comes to international conferences, they go there to make the pledge, but getting back home is something else they will do. And we are dealing with politicians all because they want to meet international standard, but coming back home is a problem. Nigerian government will never stop. Now they said they want to start talking about running vehicle on gases and so on. You can see what happened recently when the Nigerian government brought in importation of bad fuel. Do you know what that effect will have on the environment where there has excess sulfur in it? So the more they try to come up with this kangaroo solution, the more problem they are bringing, because most of them, all they're after is just revenue. Let's make the commitment, let's sign, let's get the fund. It's just like when the president said we are going to plant 5 million trees. They went to international conference. There are many trees that have been planted in Nigeria. So most of these policies are just on paper. Some corporate organization that try to, let's fulfill our promise, let's meet international standard. But if you are waiting for government, it will go a long way, because government is always after the revenue, the money that they are going to make from it and so on. So when it comes to international conference, they only go there to just make commitment, but implementation has always been a problem. Charity begin at home. It has to start with everybody. It has to start with every individual. For every individual, one way or the other, we contribute to this. One, in our household, we generate waste every day. As soon as there's no power supply, the first thing we go to our generator, running on diesel, running on petrol. So we need to start looking at alternative. What can I do to reduce my waste production? Or how can I even separate my waste for recycling? What can I do instead of using fossil fuel? Is there a way I can use alternative? Is there a solar opportunity for solar? Is there opportunity for wind? Because we are talking of excess heat, excess sunlight, which can be captured using solar panels. Then we are talking about excess water, flooding, thermal energy, and so on. So the opportunities are there. So, but like I said, it has to start with every individual, right from our home, right from our community, one step after the other. And I always use Lagos State as a very good example, whereby they are now working on waste separation at home. By 1st of April, it's going to be mandatory. Every home, every organization starts separating waste. Let's reduce the amount of waste going to the landfill or dump site where methane gas is being generated. Every July 14, tree planting. Let's plant more trees. By the time you plant more trees, the tree will be able to absorb some of these excess methane gas and so it's in the environment. So there's so many things we need to do. It's not everybody that have to put vehicle on the road. The more vehicle you put on the road, the more emission you are reducing the environment. So we need to start watching our lifestyle and see what we can do to save the environment, because this is the only planet we have.
Well, Taiwo Adewale, environmentalist, thank you for joining us on the program and for your contributions. Well, that's how much we can take on this edition of the program. Many thanks for watching. I am Mary Kanu. Bye for now.